Hey, and welcome, msKIRAspeaks. Before we get started, I ask that you watch the videos till the end, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. We are back again for another episode of Snowfall, Season 5, Episode 2, Commitment. Now, this episode at the beginning, they're going to give us a couple of quick time jumps, so bear with your girl as I try to keep up with the dates and the jumps. We open and we're 11 months ago in Washington, D.C. Teddy's at a restaurant to meet up with one of the head CIA dudes. Well, he followed him there. The CIA dude was not checking for Teddy. So he gives him a quick update on what he's been up to. And then Teddy says he's been talking to a few of his contacts. He starts talking about Tehran, and the CIA dude acts like he doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. So Teddy, he says he has a message for his boss. And then the two, they kind of talk it out a little bit. So now this is where I was a little confused. They show us a scene of Teddy looking at Julia, his ex, and his son, because they're giving us a couple of quick flashbacks of things that went on with Teddy to like kind of bring things up to speed. So we get, little bits and pieces here and there. And for some reason, I thought that Julia got killed off on another season, but I don't know. My memory is not always as vivid as it should be, and I didn't watch season 4 again before I watched season 5. So maybe it was one of her guys that got taken out in another season and not her. You can let me know down in the comments. So now they skip us on over to Germany 6 months ago. We see Avi, and he's torturing some dude when Teddy comes in. He tells Teddy he bribed the Revolutionary Guards, and they're still not cooperating. Teddy's frustrated. They're all playing them. And Avi, he's looking for his commission. So Teddy leaves him to continue torturing the possible Nazi. Then we see Teddy again as we get another time jump. He's with the CIA dude again, and it's 5 months ago in DC. He tells him Hezbollah and Iran are both cheating them. Everyone's making money except the US, and no hostages released. Teddy says they got to get out of the mess with Iran. He continues to talk about the war, and then he asks what's happening in LA. The CIA dude, he sees what Teddy's up to. It's been over a year and relatively quiet, and Teddy wants back in. They take us back to 3 days ago in LA, and we see Teddy in that disguise surveilling Grady. We actually get a scene of him keying Grady's car. I was like, Teddy is a hating ass. So he's got plenty of photos. He's got photos of Grady. He's got photos of Franklin and one of Franklin's people who was involved with Grady. So Franklin, he's at home and he's reading the paper, and we see as a headline, North Hollywood shooter still at large. That would be Thad. Then Franklin has a meeting with Grady at the hangar to discuss that price break. Grady's going to give him a price break on one condition. He wants a ride in the plane. Done deal. So the two men, they're airborne, and as they, they're up in the air, they're having some conversation, and Grady asks him how things are going. How's the lady? She's good, real good. Getting serious, Franklin says. You think she's a keeper? Franklin does, and Grady says he's had 4 good women in his life. All ex-wives, all keepers, until they weren't. And I don't think they gave us that line for nothing, because I still got my good eye on Adil. So Franklin asks him if he has any kids. He says he has a few, loves his kids, hates their moms. Wow. He says, you ever thought about having some little Franklins running around someday? Yeah, maybe, Franklin says. So Teddy meets up with the CIA dude again for an update on LA, and he tells him Grady is a mess. There's a massive disparity between the amount of product being moved and the money that's making its way into Nicaragua. Teddy's guessing he skimmed mid-7 figures. Not only that, he's in business with the asset, legitimate real estate deals using shell companies. And he's also in a relationship with one of his people, a physical one. Grady's gone native, and we know how this ends. So the CIA guy, he asked if he's sure he can work with the asset considering the history. So Teddy, he runs down all the history between him and Franklin and says, yes, he'll be fine. Mr. CIA says he was thinking more about what he did to his father in Cuba. Teddy says he has no idea what he's talking about. Oh, really, Teddy? I hope they're gonna somehow, tie up some of these storylines from last season. He tells him, get Grady in line, but do it quietly. Teddy is about to turn Grady and Franklin's life upside down. So Franklin comes home and V, she's sitting on the floor with the calendar of a few months out in front of her that she's planned out. She's got the date that the baby's due down now, and she's hoping for a girl, and she's got everything color-coded because V, she's into crystals and chakras and, all that and whatnot. So she points out the deadline for signing off on the trust for her and baby, the deadline for the 501c3 nonprofit corp, and the doctor's visits. The colors represent imagination, freedom, trust. They talk about the building that they're getting into. Franklin says she should have a personal equity stake. She is more than happy to hear that. It's nice when someone sees your value. So Franklin, he meets with everybody except for Leon at Louis' club to discuss the business. V is also there to talk about the property that they're bidding on, and Unc, he make it plain. What is you saying? I don't know what that word is. So Franklin tells him they'll move the money from Panama into the US and invest it in the project legitimately. Louis wants to know how much. V says in order to be competitive and retain majority ownership, it would be a $10 million buy-in from Louis and Unc. Unc says that's most of the money that they got. Franklin says the more they put up for the private equity, the more they own, and the less the banks are involved. Once the building is finished, they'll get commercial rent, and their stakes will appreciate when the economy comes back. How long is that going to be till they get their money back? Unc asked. 3 years, maybe less. It's a long-term investment. V points out, if you do decide to sell it one day, your initial investment could double, triple. Sky's the limit. They've got all the paperwork, and V, she's got to head back to the office. So she gives Franklin a kiss, and Louis got her, she's giving her a little side eye. Louis asks anything new about Rob and his friend. It's all taken care of, Franklin says. Rob is out, and so is his friend that did the shooting. And Louis looks surprised. Now, they're going to have to replace Rob. She brought that up last episode, and I think Louis was thinking Franklin would handle Rob the same way Leon handled Wanda. Speaking of Wanda, she's at work, and she gets her paycheck, and that math is not math. And so she goes in to see her boss, who has one of the ladies on his lap. The lady runs out, and he tells Wanda that he's taking a cut for fines. Wanda says that ain't her problem. And he starts talking about upkeep, and he's cutting something up, and then he does a line. He tells her if she wants to party with him, they could work something out. So she walks over to him like she's down, and she sits on his lap, and she smacks that tray across the desk, and she walks out. She says, F you and F this job, and since she heads on out. So Gustavo is dropping the kids off at school when Teddy rolls up on him. They shoot the shit, and he asks about Lucia. Gustavo realizes his family is here, and he asks Teddy what he's doing there. Grady's sloppy, he's compromised, and a danger to everyone. So Grady's out, and you're in, Gustavo's asking him. He's like, he loves it here. This guy is not going to like being told to leave. It's not his choice, Teddy tells him. He wants to know if he can still count on Gustavo. And Gustavo's like, I'm just trying to take care of my family. So Avi, he's got some straps for Louis and Unc. He's like a real regular Bonnie and Clyde. It didn't end up too good for them, Unc says. Ignore that part. I meant having a partner in crime. He says he's jealous. They have each other, money, the city. He hopes it's making them happy. So as they get in the car, Louis and Unc are talking, and she asks if he's happy. Life can't get much better, he says. She tells him she appreciates him. There was a time that he didn't want to be in, and now he's all the way in, and she knows that that's because of her, and that is everything. You are a king among men. Come on, Louis, you better lay it on him thick. Franklin is trying to get in contact with his mom in Havana. The connection is horrible. As you know, she gets on the phone and they're talking, you could hardly tell it was Sissy. He tells her it's early, but V is pregnant. She's excited and he wishes she was there. But they get disconnected. And I'm like, are we going to address Franklin not knowing about Alton at all? Come on, Snowfall, let's keep up. So Leon, he's in the hood. He's on his Nino Brown. He's sending kids on school field trips. And Franklin, he pops up for a visit. So they reminisce a little bit. And then Franklin wants to talk about the development opportunity downtown. Leon says he'll pass. Franklin says he doesn't care what he does with his money. He just wants to make sure he has a plan. Leon says he has more than he ever thought he would or could need. They have some more convo before they talk about Rob. Leon says, you could have cleaned him up, but Franklin's like, you didn't see him. Could have folded at any time. He tells him it had to be done. So then, they have a little more conversation. He tells him that V is 6 weeks pregnant, and that is way too early to be telling so many people, but okay. So that's pretty much, Franklin gonna be a daddy, hip hop, hooray, and off to the next scene. So Grady is walking through his place and we hear Teddy. Grady asks if he came here to warn him. Teddy brings up the money flowing into his pocket. Grady thought it was included in all the looking in the other direction that was going on. Teddy says, it's not. Grady says he got the message. Teddy tells him his contract is canceled, and Grady, he puts the strap on the table and tells him he doesn't think so. Who has his connections? Grady asks. And then Teddy kind of, gives him that, like, you got me effed up. Like, maybe if he was talking to somebody else. Wait, you're the guy that almost went down with the ship. How did they get you to come back? And this is where Grady starts to tell Teddy all about himself slowly but surely. Teddy tells him, you can keep the cars and all the money that you squirreled away. You volunteered, Grady suggests. You're one of the last true believers who's not in on the joke yet. Grady says, all you God and country guys are looking for something to fill. You want to be important. You want to feel like you matter. You want to feel like you're not a joke. Teddy says he'll be back tomorrow. He expects him to be gone. But Grady continues, let me guess. Your wife left you. She moved on with some other guy. Your kids, they don't want to talk to you because you're an idiot. Your parents, they kicked you around so much when you were younger that you started to believe that you didn't matter. I mean, just straight read him, y'all. Read him for the filth. Teddy got up and I thought he was going to shoot him, but he walks away. Grady, he's still talking ish. He is the operation. They better think twice. So Wanda, she pays Leon a visit and they talk about her quitting the phone sex job. It's hard to find a job and she doesn't want to have to explain the 2-year gap in her life. Leon's like, well, you don't have to tell people. And she says, no, part of her recovery is being honest with herself and the world. Staying clean is hard. She has to pay for the things that she did when she was high. And she asks him to put her on. And Leon tells her there's nothing for her there. She's going to have to figure something else out. Leon ain't want that on his conscience, and I don't blame him. So it's nighttime and Grady's locking up. And I'm thinking it's a little bit late. If you ask me, them doors should have been locked. So he goes into his room and he sits on the edge of his bed and he starts to take a drink. The cup falls out of his hand and he hits the floor. He's crawling on the floor and then he throws up and we see Teddy. Should have taken the out. Now we saw that coming a mile away because we know Teddy does not just walk away from anything. This is not because you insulted me, Teddy tells him. It's because you're bad at your job. And Grady is gone. And Teddy, he walks out. Right on over to ding dong. Franklin's bell rings. It's Teddy. Can I come in? Franklin lets him in and Teddy marvels over Franklin's place. Safe, quiet, secluded, secure. Everything he'd expect from Franklin. When did you get back in town? Franklin asked him. A few weeks ago. So they make some small talk and Franklin says, things with Grady were moving smoothly. Teddy says that's his job, to make you like him, trust him, etc. He makes some really poor choices. Partying is one thing, but he gets involved in a romantic relationship with one of your crew. That's before the two of you go into real estate together. Teddy goes on, and Franklin wants to know, why are you referring to him in the past tense? Grady was not your friend, Teddy tells him. it's been taken care of before it could get too out of hand. And they can go back to doing things the way they should be done. Starting when? Effective immediately. Franklin says no reason they can't get stuff done now because they've worked together in the past. So Teddy tells him he'll be in touch about the next drop. He tells him to sell Grady's house and give him the cash. He asks for Franklin's lighter because he doesn't have one, and I don't understand what the significance in that is. Maybe we'll see that in another episode. Franklin says, "It's your world. I just sell dope in it." And that was going back to Franklin's basically repeating the words that Teddy had said to him in a previous season. So as Teddy is leaving, Franklin tells him Grady agreed to cut the pricing down. He's hoping he can honor that. Teddy wants to keep it at 10 for now. And he tells him, Reed is gone. From now on, call me Teddy. He leaves. Franklin closes the box where his gun was. I think the lighter was also in there. And that is where we end. This season is going to be a doozy, y'all. What are your thoughts on the episode? Please leave them down in the comments. I told you Franklin's world was going to be turned upside down. He thought he had a good thing with Grady, and he said as much in the first episode. But now jealous Teddy is back to be a thorn in his side. If you have made it this far, put a cup emoji down in the comments for Teddy poisoning Grady's drink. I hope you'll come back and join me for my review of episode 3 this weekend. While you're here, please check out some of my other content. Thank you, thank you. And before you go, like, subscribe, and share. I appreciate you. Peace.